Hello! Welcome back to my channel, welcome to today's video. Today we have a little summer book recommendations for you. I've gathered literally all the books that I've read that I think would be perfect to read at summertime, or to take on holiday with you, or just have something summery about it, just that have that summer vibe. And I'm going to do a separate video of my summer TBR, so all the books that I'm hoping to read this summer. But for today I thought I'd give some recommendations, and I've split it up into kind of categories. So I'm going to do romance first, and then we're going to move on to YA books, which have both romance and thrillers, and then just general thrillers as well. And I feel like I have a lot to get to, and I have a feeling this might be a long little chatty video, so let's get straight into it. So first up we have romance. I feel like it's only natural to first talk about Emily Henry's books. I don't know what it is about the way that Emily Henry writes, but whenever I think of summer vibes and romance, I think of Emily Henry's books. So we have 4 of them here. Let's go through them. I don't have a physical copy of The People We Meet on Vacation or You and Me on Vacation. Just in case you didn't know, that's the same book but with 2 different titles. And I've listened to that one on audiobook. That personally wasn't really for me, but I would still recommend it if you like Emily Henry's writing and just to give it a go, because I feel like people just connect differently with different Emily Henry books, even though they're all written by Emily Henry. And I definitely have some that I way prefer than others. So I am still recommending You and Me on Vacation, because that one is literally set on vacation and it follows 2 best friends going on different vacations throughout the years. So it would literally be perfect for a holiday read or a summer read. So I would say give it a go and see if you like it. Me personally, I just didn't really connect with it, and it's just not one of my favourite Emily Henry books. But let's go through her others. So we have Book Lovers. This was a literary agent and an editor, and they're basically work kind of enemies, sort of. And Nora, our main girl in this, has a younger sister who wants to go away for a little bit of time off and persuades Nora to go with her, and they go to this little small town. It's a very cute book. It's small town romance. I really like how there are a lot of kind of cliche sort of tropes that are small town romance tropes, but because she's a literary agent, she's like, oh well, of course this would happen, or like it just works really well because the tropes are in there, but then she's kind of acknowledging that like it's like she's in a book, if that makes sense. For her it feels like she's in a small town romance book, which just made it really funny to read. And I really like Charlie in this as well, who's the love interest, and I really liked their banter with each other as well. So there we have Book Lovers, and then we have Beach Read. I would say this has a similar vibe to Book Lovers. I don't know what it is about it, but these just seem similar to me. Beach Read basically follows 2 writers, and they are writing in completely different genres, and they're both struggling. They both got writer's block, and they basically make a bet to swap genres and write each other's genres and see who can get their book published first. And because they're not used to writing in each other's genres, they kind of take each other on sort of day dates to kind of learn more about that genre and more about what it needs and how to write in that genre. So it follows them kind of going out together. They're both really competitive with each other as well, and this one is set over summer. And the thing that I also really like about Emily Henry's books is that the characters feel very thought out and thorough, and they all have their own sort of backstory. And that was really clear in this one as well, especially with January. January is our main girl, and she has a lot going on in her life that she's trying to work through, as well as trying to write this book. So I would recommend this, and I think it would be perfect for a beach read. Then we have my 2 personal favourites. First up we have Funny Story, which is her newest release, and this one is literally just giving rom-com vibes. It's literally like watching a rom-com film. I love the vibe that is in this book. This is again small town romance. It's got a bit of found family in there as well, and I just think the whole concept of this is just so funny. I mean, it's literally funny story. But this follows Daphne and Miles, and basically they've broken up from both their relationships, and their exes are now together. So they're kind of in the same boat, and Daphne basically moves in with Miles because she has nowhere else to go, and Miles is obviously in the same boat as her, so he knows what it's like, and he says that she can stay with him. And just the whole concept from the get-go is a really interesting sort of dynamics between them. It does definitely give me summery vibes. And Miles in this is literally like Nick from New Girl. He gives the same energy as Nick, and I liked their sort of dynamic together, and it was just a really fun little rom-com. And then we have my all-time favourite, which is Happy Place. This follows Harriet and Wyn, and they were engaged, but they've just broken up, but they've not told any of their friends. So they have the same friendship circle, and this friendship group go away every year together to the same family holiday house. And this year it's actually the last year that they can do that before they're selling the house. So Harriet and Wyn haven't told their friends that they're not together anymore, and they decide to pretend that they're still together. So it's kind of got fake dating trope in, but done in a slightly different way. The thing that really stood out to me in this is how friendships were represented in this, and I really loved how it wasn't just focused on romantic connections, but also there was a lot about friendships and how these change over time and how you kind of have to adapt with things changing, and I really liked that in this book, and it was something that I really related to as well, and it made it feel like so much more than just a romance book as well. And this is just one that I felt really connected to, and I read it super quickly, and it definitely has that summer vibe to it as well. So if I was to recommend only one Emily Henry book, it would definitely be this one. This is definitely my favourite. But if you've read this one and you really liked it, I would still recommend the others as well, especially if you really get on with Emily Henry's writing. I would also say that Funny Story is the most similar sort of vibe to Happy Place, but I feel like Book Lovers and Beach Read are very similar, and then Happy Place and Funny Story have a similar vibe as well. Moving on to some little spicy romance books. We have the Maple Hills series. So this consists of Icebreaker and Wildfire. Daydream is also coming out this year, which I'm so excited about. I'm recommending both of these for summer recommendations. So the first one in the series is Icebreaker, and this follows Anastasia and Nate. And the thing that really stood out to me is that I really liked them as individual characters, but I also liked them together. I will say that both of these are no plot, just vibes. Like, it's literally, I'm reading it literally just for the vibes of the people and this friendship group, and I really like it. I know a lot of people don't like it because they say it has no plot, but if you kind of go in just thinking it's just for the vibes, I think you would really enjoy it. So I believe that the way that the Maple Hill series works is that every other one is set at the university campus, and then the ones in between are set in the summer holidays. So the first one is set on the uni campus, but I'm still recommending it for summer because it's just a good vibe. And this one we have Anastasia, who's a figure skater, and then we have Nate, who's the captain of the ice hockey team, and his team's ice rink breaks, so he has to start training on Anastasia's ice rink, and it's very sort of grumpy sunshine where she's grumpy and he's sunshine. Also a bit of forced proximity as well because they're on the same ice rink, and it's just really got that vibe of she can't stand him. To start with, which I feel like is always funny to read. And then quickly, before I move on to Wildfire, which is the second one in the series, if you really liked Icebreaker, I'm going to recommend Collide. This is very similar vibe. I personally preferred Icebreaker. I do think people that like Icebreaker would also really enjoy this. This is very similar. She's a sports psychology student and he's the captain of the ice hockey team, and they're basically kind of forced together because she has to study him for a project that she's working on. So they end up spending a lot of time together, and again, similarly with Icebreaker, she can't stand him and she wants nothing to do with him, and she's sort of the grumpy part of Grumpy Sunshine and he's the sunshine. So my first recommendation is read Icebreaker first because I personally think it's a slightly better book, but I think if you really liked this, then I have another little hockey romance that you might also like as well. Going back to Maple Hills, so we have Icebreaker, which is the first one, and then we have Wildfire. This is the reason that I want to recommend this whole series, because this is set at a summer camp, so it's literally perfect for a summer recommendation. This follows Russ and Aurora, and they basically met at university to start with. They had a bit of a one-night stand, and then they thought it's fine because they're both going their separate ways, and then they end up working at the same summer camp, which automatically just makes me think, oh my god, like, oh god, what would you even do? But also at this summer camp, they have a rule where no staff can get involved with each other. So it's kind of got a bit of a forbidden romance trope in there as well. And there's a lot of tension in here as well because obviously they can't do anything and they try and kind of stay away from each other, but they can't help being drawn back to each other. And what I will also say in both of these is this is another series where the characters kind of feel thought out, and every single one of these characters has something that they're dealing with or struggling with in the background to what's going on, and I really like how that's sort of represented and how it's talked about, and also how it's normalised in these books as well. But this one especially is perfect for summertime because of the summer camp. And then staying in the spicy romance genre, we have Flawless by Elsie Silver, which is the first one in the Chestnut Springs series. I'm recommending this whole series. I've actually only read the first two so far, so we have Flawless and we have Heartless. I've already bought the rest of the series and I just know that I'm going to read it because it's just such a good vibe. This is an interconnected standalone series, so we're with the same group of characters in Chestnut Springs, but each book focuses on a different couple. This one follows Summer and Rhett, and Rhett is a bull rider and Summer is his agent's daughter. So her dad is Rhett's agent and she works for her dad, and her dad basically sends her off to essentially babysit Rhett because Rhett's a bit of a troublemaker and there keeps being media coverage of him that's not putting him in the best light. So Summer's dad basically sends her along to set him straight and to babysit him. And it's very much like they don't get on at first and they kind of resent each other because she doesn't like how he is and he doesn't want her there because he doesn't want babysitting. And there's a bit of forced proximity in there as well because they have to be together at all times pretty much. I really like the setting of this and how it's all set on a ranch, and I really like how each book in the series focuses on a different trope. I love how that's done, and it just means that there's something for everyone. And I like that even with tropes I don't necessarily gravitate towards, I still want to read it because it's part of the series and I want to see what's going on with those characters. And the way that Elsie Silver writes as well, it's just so readable and so easy and enjoyable that I will read it anyway, and I might find some tropes that I thought that I didn't really like that much, but I actually do like it in these books. So I really like how that's done. This one I personally preferred to the second one, but I know the second one is so popular, but again, it's just got some tropes in that I don't necessarily gravitate towards or that don't really do anything for me, which I will move on to. So the second one is Heartless, and this follows Cade and Willa, and Cade is Rhett's brother. So you can see how it's all kind of connected together. And Willa is also Summer's best friend. So Willa comes out to visit Summer and she meets Cade, and Cade is a single father, so that's the main trope that is in here. Which the single dad trope, I can see why people absolutely love it, but it's just not something that really does anything for me. It's just not my absolute favourite, and I don't tend to gravitate towards books with them in, but I did still really enjoy reading this. And I actually thought the kid was quite cute, which I didn't expect to say that. But I actually really liked the relationship between the kid and Willa. I liked how that was done. But basically, Cade is looking for a babysitter for his little boy, and Summer basically persuades him to hire Willa. So she's basically the nanny to the kid, and they end up spending a lot of time together because she's always there looking after the kid. And there's also an age gap trope in here, which I've just remembered, which again isn't one of my favourite tropes. It's just again not a trope that does anything for me. They're sort of the main tropes that are in this one. I'm really excited to carry on with this series, especially for the third one. I just have a feeling that that one's going to be my favourites, and it's got some tropes in that I know I already absolutely love. So I'm really looking forward to carrying on with that series. Okay, next up we have a couple of books that aren't spicy, that are just general sort of romance. The first one is 7 X's by Lucy Vine. Now this isn't necessarily set at summertime or anything. And there it goes. But the reason that I'm recommending this is because it's just the perfect rom-com vibe, and I feel like it would make the perfect holiday beach read sort of book. This is very similar to the movie What's Your Number, if anybody's seen that, which is a really good movie, by the way. But this is a very similar concept. So this basically follows Esther, and she reads in an article one day that women will date 7 different people before they find the one, and she realises that she has 7 exes, so she thinks that one of them must be the one. And she basically goes back through her exes, tracks them down, sees what they're doing now, sees if she can rekindle something, or if any spark is still there, or if any of them might be the one. And it's just one of those books where you literally are giggling out loud because it's just so much fun. It's so much fun, and it just really has that feeling of a 2000s rom-com movie, and I just really enjoyed it. And this is one that I don't really hear people talking about at all, and when I bought it I literally saw it in the shop, read the back, was intrigued, and was pleasantly surprised at how good it was and how much I enjoyed it. And the writing is really easy to read as well. I just think it would be a perfect book to take with you on holiday, even though it's not technically specifically a summer romance read, but I would definitely recommend if you want a fun rom-com book. Similarly, the next one is also nothing to do with summer, but I'm going to recommend it because it's got such a good vibe to it, and again I think it would be a good read at summertime, and that's The 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This is basically a magical realism type romance. So we follow Clementine, whose auntie has recently left her apartment, and she's always been told stories by her auntie that that apartment is magical and it can move forward and backwards 7 years in time, and Clementine has never really believed that until it happens to her one day and she meets a stranger in her kitchen and she's actually travelled back 7 years in the past. And that whole concept is just so good from the get-go. I just absolutely love this. It's such a lovely book. And it also deals with some harder topics like grief as well, which are just represented in such a beautiful way. And it's one of those that you'll want to annotate just because it's written so beautifully. And then there's that whole thing as well of she wants to find him in real time and real life. And does he already know that they've met? And just the whole thing. It's a crazy concept, just the whole thing. And then also, not specifically summer related, but again with the magical vibe. We have Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This is a romantasy and it's literally fairy tale vibes. I genuinely cannot even explain what these books are about. They're so hard to pinpoint because I just feel like there's so much going on, but in the best way possible. This first book literally felt like a fever dream to me reading it. The second book, I still haven't recovered. This I read so quickly. I read it so quick that I was actually trying to slow myself down because I didn't want to rush through it, but I literally couldn't. I read it within 24 hours. I couldn't put it down and I still haven't recovered. This is actually a trilogy. I'm currently reading the third one and I'm really enjoying that as well. But I would literally recommend reading this just so you can get to the second book. But the first one is also good and it's got a real magical fairy tale vibe to it as well. It basically follows Evangeline, who wants her happy ever after, and she learns that the love of her life is about to marry somebody else. So she makes a deal with the Prince of Hearts to basically stop the wedding. And from there, pure chaos. In the best way possible. Pure magical chaos. They're really easy books to read. They are YA and I do think that they're written like a YA. I think that there are some books that are YA books, so Powerless by Lauren Roberts for example, but they don't necessarily read like a YA in the fact that you can tell when you're reading it, but this one I definitely consciously noticed. So if you really don't like YA, I probably wouldn't recommend the series, but if you don't mind YA or you really like it, then I definitely would. I love a YA book personally and I really got on with the writing in these, but it is something that I definitely noticed. But also, how stunning are these covers? I'm literally obsessed. And then I have a couple more YA romance recommendations. The first one being Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This one again, not specifically summer vibes or set at summertime, but such a good vibe. This gives the same vibe as the movies like Kissing Booth or To All the Boys I Loved Before. That sort of vibe. This is literally it in a book. And it's just really good fun. This basically follows Liz and Wes and they're next door neighbours, and he's always sort of been the boy growing up that's like been tormenting her. And she's absolutely obsessed with romance movies. And every single chapter starts with a quote from a really popular romance film, which I absolutely loved that little detail that she put in there. And Liz basically likes this guy called Michael and she really wants to get his attention. And Wes basically offers to help her do that. So they end up spending a lot of time together, basically trying to get Michael to ask Liz to prom. And because it's a YA, it's just such a fun, easy read. And I think this would be a perfect little holiday book as well. And then we have Summery Turned Pretty, which is honestly one of the most perfect books for summertime to take with you on holiday for a beach read. It's literally the perfect book for that. This whole series is a little trilogy and it basically follows our main girl Belly, and it's basically a group of her family and family friends that all go to this holiday house every single summer and basically live their best life on the beach and everything. And they've done this ever since Belly was little, but now she's growing up a bit more and she's basically caught in this love triangle with these two brothers. And they're just such easy reads and they really have that summery feel to them. They're also quite short as well, so they're really quick and fast paced. And I'd honestly recommend reading these even if you've seen the series. And if you haven't watched the series, I would recommend reading these first and then watching the series. The series I absolutely love. I love it. And I can't wait for the new one that's coming out. I literally keep seeing that they're filming it currently and it just makes me so excited. So excited. But I would definitely recommend reading these even if you've seen the series. Okay, so that's all our summer romance recommendations. Moving on to thrillers, but staying in the YA genre. First up we have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. Not necessarily summer vibes, but the reason that I'm recommending this is because the show is coming out. So if you haven't read the books, this is your sign to read the books before the show comes out. The show comes out this summer, so it's coming out 1st of July, I believe. So you have time to read this before the show. That's the reason that I'm recommending it now. This basically follows Pip. She's basically doing a final year project and she decides to look into this case of something that happened in their town 5 years ago. And she believes that the person that everybody thinks is guilty isn't guilty, so she decides to go and do some digging and to do some research and to find out what actually happened. And we take some crazy turns in here. We take some crazy turns, and because it's a YA, it's such an easy, enjoyable read. And the thing that I absolutely love about these books is that they have different things in them. So the format of it isn't just all writing. So we have like production log entries, which are kind of like bullet points, or we have photos or notes that look like they've been printed off and put in, or transcripts between people she's interviewing, and it just makes reading it so fun. And I also find that I read it quicker because I'm just so interested in what's going on, and just the format of the whole book is so good. So I would definitely recommend reading this before the show comes out. this is your sign. And then we have another YA. I actually think this is my last young adult recommendation, but that's We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. I know that this isn't everybody's cup of tea, but I absolutely loved it. It's one of my favourite books, and it's one of the books that got me into reading. I know that some people don't really connect with this style of writing, but I personally really, really love it. And this basically follows the Sinclair family, and they're basically this really rich family who have a little island that they go to every summer, and some things happen. I know that's really, really vague, but I can't actually say that much without giving anything away. It basically follows this family who go there every summer, and things kick off, things happen, and it's good. That's the worst book recommendation I think I've ever done, but read it. And that's that. I literally don't even know what else to say about it without giving it away, but I really liked it. And if you've read this and liked it, I would recommend the prequel, which is Family of Liars. Again, set on the same island, set at summertime, but this one I believe follows one of the parents from the first one, but when they were a teenager. They're good, okay? Just trust me, they're good. I literally don't even know how to summarise this, and the blurb is giving me nothing. It's giving me nothing. So I don't know what else to say about these. They're a rich family, things get chaotic, and they're set at summertime on a big island, so I think they'd be perfect for a summer recommendation. I don't know what just happened. Okay, moving on to thrillers that aren't YA but just general thrillers. The first one we have is Where the Crawdads Sing, and this one I think is literary fiction, I think. But don't let that put you off, because I actually went into this book not knowing that, and I was really surprised to find out because I enjoyed it so much. So don't let that put you off. It's very much thriller, coming of age kind of vibe, and I really liked the coming of age part of this. We basically follow Kaya. We follow Kaya growing up, and I just think the way that was done, you just felt so connected to her as a character, and you felt like you were going on this journey with her, which I really, really liked. It's set in the 1950s and 1960s time, and she's basically growing up in the marshes. So the feeling of it is very sort of hot summer vibe, but not like beach vibe. Think marsh vibe. And this was actually such a surprise read for me, because I literally picked up randomly one day and started reading it, and then I was like, this is actually really good, I want to continue. And to this day it's still a book that I think about, and I just really, really like how the story was told, and how, like I said, it felt like we kind of grew up with the main girl, and it's honestly unlike anything that I've read so far, I think. So I would definitely recommend this. And then when you've read this, I'd also recommend the film, because I really liked that adaptation of the film. It was exactly how I imagined it in my head, and I just absolutely loved seeing it. I was going to say in real life, but you know, instead of reading it, you know what I mean. Next up we have The Castaways by Lucy Clarke. I loved this, and I don't know why more people aren't speaking about it. If you like the series Lost, I think you'd really like this, but Lost before it gets weird, because a few seasons into Lost and it takes a really weird turn. Before that, with the plane crash and them surviving on the island and everything. That's literally what this book is like. This follows two sisters, and they're meant to go on holiday together, but one of them gets on the plane and one of them misses the flight. And the sister that gets on the plane actually ends up crashing on an island, and the sister that didn't get on the plane spends her time in present day looking for her and trying to work out what happened, because nobody knows what's happened to this plane, nobody can find it. So we follow both sisters' point of views, which I really, really liked, because I actually liked them equally, and I found that there wasn't one that I preferred over the other one, so there wasn't one that I was reading just to get through to get to the next one. I really enjoyed both points of views, and I really liked the vibe on the island, and I also really liked the mystery sort of aspect of it that we got with the other sister looking for her sister. And it's just a really good read, and again, perfect for summertime, and would be the perfect holiday beach read vibe. And then we have The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I actually don't have a physical copy of this, because I actually went on holiday last year, and it was a book that was in the holiday house that I was staying at, and I read it while I was there and I left it there on the shelf. But this was so good. It was so good, and I think it was perfect for holiday. I mean, I literally read it on holiday. It's basically set on an island, and this group of friends have come together on this island to celebrate this wedding, and something bad happens at this wedding, and we kind of have to work out who's responsible. The thing that I absolutely loved about this book was the tension and the build up was so good. Just the whole atmosphere of being on this island in the summertime at night was so good. So good. And I just really like how Lucy Foley sets up her characters and her books. I just really like how she tells a thriller. And then I have a couple Lisa Jewell recommendations. The first one is The Night She Disappeared. This one basically follows a mum who's looking for her teenage daughter who went missing. This one has two different timelines. We follow what happened in summer 2017 and also in summer 2018, which I think in this is present day. And it's one of my favourite Lisa Jewell books. It's just really good, and I really like how we kind of slowly got puzzle pieces given to us that we could just fit together, and just how it was all slowly revealed and uncovered. I really like how that was done. And this is one that actually got me into reading and that I still think about to this day. And then we have I Found You, which is another Lisa Jewell book. This one I think is set at summertime. I think one of the timelines is, but it takes place on a little seaside town, and it basically follows a woman who finds this random man on a beach one day, and he's alone and he doesn't know how he got there. He doesn't even know his own name and she decides to invite him into her home. But it also follows different timelines, and it's really clever how they kind of join together, because at the start they seem very disconnected from each other, but they all slowly start to make sense and join together, which I thought was done really cleverly. And because of the beach and the little seaside town, there are definitely parts of this that have a sort of thriller summer vibe to it. And I think that's all of them. So I hope you have some new summery books to add to your summer TBR. Like I said before, I will be doing a video going through my whole summer TBR. So please let me know if you have any summer recommendations that you think that I'd like as well, that I can add to my TBR. And thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Please let me know if you did, and I will hopefully see you in my next one.